Well, hello. Welcome once again to Pale Blooms and Beyond. Thank you for joining us today. Geraint Davies is a Welsh singer, songwriter, and guitarist specializing in Welsh language music. For more than 4 decades, Geraint has been at the forefront of the Welsh music scene, beginning his career in the folk rock band Hergest from 1971 to 1979. The band released 4 albums and 2 EPs. There are also a couple of compilation CDs out there. After Hergest called it a day, Mr. Davies joined Mynediad, which translates to free admission, and we'll find out more about that name later. On the band's last album, Geraint wrote several songs and co-produced the album. Geraint has been a member for 45 years. He has written songs for Heather Jones and the late Ray, I didn't ask about this one, Gravell? Ray Gravell. Okay, Gravell. And the children's favorite, Mistar Urdd. Mr. Davies also has a couple of solo albums to his credit. And my guest is still playing live with free admission to this day. So welcome, Geraint.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for doing this.
It's not often people call me Mr. Davies. That was my dad.
That was your dad. You know, I can remember when I was a little younger, and the first time a younger person called me Mister, I thought I was taken aback a little bit. It's like, am I that old? Right. Well, take us back to the beginning. Where were you born?
Oh, I was born in a small town called Merthyr Tydfil, very industrial. But we moved from that area when I was about 2.5, 3, so I don't remember any of it. I was brought up, if anybody asked me where I come from, another small market town called Llandovery. And I was there between the ages of 3 and 10. That tells you everything, I think. You know, that those years are formative. Those are where you start to put down some kind of roots. But then, and I never forgave my parents for moving us when I was 10, because I was a happy guy there. But I got over it.
Right, right. They didn't ask you though, did they?
No. Probably just as well.
Right. Well, early on, do you remember hearing music in the household?
Yeah, both my parents were quite musical. My mother played piano. My father liked to sing, just with amateur little groups around the place. He was, in fact, a minister, so everything revolved around the church. So there was lots of singing going on there. Which I never really got into.
Okay.
But one of my weaknesses as a musician and singer is I don't like singing a part. I like to find my own parts. So I would often, and it's happened since then in some projects, where somebody would be there and there'd be a huge group of us doing something, and somebody would say, "Hang on, who's singing that note we shouldn't be singing?" And it's usually me. Yeah, it fits, it's fine, but it may not be what they want.
Yeah. So you didn't sing early in the church?
No, only like everybody else. Okay. But not as a soloist or anything along those lines. No, I was a late development in those terms. Okay. But music was always around.
Okay. Well, we'll talk about your first musical instrument. Was that the guitar?
No. The violin.
Okay.
Yeah, as in, and not the fiddle, the violin. For some reason, and it was my choice. I'd seen some people play this in some kind of event. I said, "Oh, that looks pretty cool." So I said, "Can I have some lessons on the violin?" I came to regret it because they then forced me to do this until I was about 16. Did a lot of the exams and all this kind of stuff. And I always remember my last teacher, by that time I had got a guitar, and she always referred to the guitar as the banjo. She was quite disparaging of the whole the whole thing, but I stuck with it with the guitar, and because I'm basically self-taught, although I did study music in school, I'm not a great reader, but I could read you a violin line. Okay. I can't play very well anymore, but again, that comes in very handy if I'm playing mandolin, because it's exactly the same fingering.
Right. I've heard that doing these interviews that, being classically trained or taking lessons, you kind of outgrow that at some point.
Oh yeah.
And it's a little restricting. Yeah.
Oh, and actually, even before violin, I did get a few piano lessons, as everybody did.
Okay.
But the lady who was teaching me, and this would have been before I was 10, just before we moved. She had some kind of nervous breakdown, and I've always felt guilty. It might have been something to do with me.
To your credit or discredit?
Well, didn't do her any good.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, what about? Can you remember one of the first singles or albums that you bought yourself?
Well, before that, I started taking an interest when I was about 7 years old, in pop music, as it was at that point. There was a guy called John Layton, who most people will not remember.
I know who he is. Yeah.
He had a couple of hits, and he was also an actor. He was in films like The Great Escape. And he had a song called Wild Wind. And I heard that and I thought, wow, this is cool. And then started, listening, because over here we only had the BBC, which didn't play much pop music anyway. But every Sunday evening they had a show of the latest charts, and I always made a point of listening to that. If I was, had to sneak out very often to do that, and started making lists, as everybody did, in that period, and that was the beginning. But we didn't have a record player, so it took me several years to persuade my parents. Yeah, a record player would be okay. It will not make us bad people. But the first single I actually bought was Barry Maguire's "Eve of Destruction."
Oh yes.
With a wonderful sound. And that was, of course, I didn't realize this at the time. This was my introduction to California and California music. And that's been the major influence on everything I've done since. Having said that, the first album I bought was after hearing it. It was owned by the elder brother of a friend of mine. It was the Buddy Holly story.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. And that's, again, I couldn't wish for better, because as a songwriter, Buddy Holly's right up there. And as far as standards concerned, and also it was pretty easy to learn. They're mainly 3 chords. So it was a great way to start.
Yeah. And that's the real reason you decided to do this, right? Because Buddy was from Texas. I'm from Texas.
That was exactly it. Yeah, you used the Buddy Holly coin, and yeah.
Okay. I was just looking back over my John Layton. Yeah, Johnny Remember Me was another one. Yeah. Lonely City, Fabulous. Yeah, he had some nice tracks.
It was pre-Beatles.
Yes. Well, you mentioned Barry Maguire, and that was also kind of your introduction to the folk kind of music as well, right?
Yeah, I guess so. It was just the sound, and later on as it developed, of course, you go from Maguire to the Mamas and Papas, the Dunhill label, all that stuff. P.F. Sloan. Once you start opening up, and then from there, my first band, the first band I took to, I was a fan of, was probably the Beach Boys. Discovered the Beach Boys about, not right in the beginning, it would have been about 65, 66. I get around that era. And also, and very unfashionable, but although it's a bit more fashionable now, the Monkees.
Uh-huh.
Now
Right.
the Monkees hit when I was 13 years old. So, you know, and through the Monkees again, I discovered country rock, really. You know, Mike Nesmith, you know, they had people like Doug Dillard playing on their albums. And from there on, it became the Byrds, the Burritos, Poco, CSNY, and that, you know, the whole family tree.
Right. But, you know, that's interesting because I'm a few years younger than you, but the Monkees, I remember me and my cousins, San Antonio, we would play it on the 45, the songs, and then air guitar. I remember to the Monkees, we would get out there. I played a mean air guitar. I gotta tell you. Yeah. Well, what about there growing up? Was there any kind of music scene developing as a teen?
Not well. Wales is a small country, and Welsh Wales. I mean, about 20% of the population speak Welsh as well as English, bilingual. There was nothing much going on as far as early pop music was concerned until about the mid 60s. And I've thought a lot about this, and there were various reasons why things started taking off at that point. We'd had what they call the great folk scare of the early 60s in the States, Dylan and people like this. And what that did, it made it possible for people to perform with just an acoustic guitar. A cheap acoustic guitar was all you needed. You didn't need to find a band. You didn't have to pay good money for electric instruments and drum kits and all the rest of it. So it was economical. It was economic as well. And it started off in that way. The early sort of the roots of Welsh language, pop, rock, whatever you want to call it, was usually, you know, it was probably down to Dylan and his contemporaries. And very often they were translations of Dylan songs or, you know, other songs of the time. And then gradually people started writing their own songs. And that's where I came in, basically. I started off in 1970, I believe. So things had started bubbling under. And I know that you, Greg, have been investigating a guy called Mike Stevens.
Yes.
Now, Mike came along at 68. He'd already recorded in London in English. He was very much a bohemian and still is. I mean, he's in his 80s now. But Mike was had a great finger-picking style. I used to go around because we're a small nation, geographically and numerically. I'd go from gig to gig, knowing where he was, and just sit there and watch him. And I'd learnt most of my guitar basic tricks from Mike Stevens. And he was very much into Dylan. He was a big Richie Havens fan. And, you know, every one of these I mention, I think, you know, it's good stuff.
It is. I remember Richie, well, just seeing the video from Woodstock. I remember that, you know, how that impressed on me. Yeah. Well, that's very, Mike, exactly.
Yeah. And then, of course, what happened, what got me into it, I bought a guitar and I was messing around at home and just teaching myself a few chords and the rest of it. Not thinking that I'd do anything, you know, myself. But again, because of following on for the great folk scare, I think what really did it for me and for a number of my contemporaries was the singer-songwriter boom.
Yes.
The turn of the 60s, 70s. Again, because we could do it with just a couple of acoustic guitars. We could be Crosby, Stills, Nash Young, the acoustic bit at least. You know? And then we sort each other out. You think, oh, I'm the only guy who's into this. And then you find somebody else. And then you find somebody else. And I say, oh, okay. Do you want to sing the Crosby harmony there? And I'll do this bit here. And that's how Hergest came about. 4 of us got together and realized we all like the same stuff.
Well, talk a little bit about, was this around the same time or was it after you guys got together? Now, see, I should have asked you. I'm going to pronounce this one probably wrong. Gwynwyn?
Gwynwyn,
Ah,
that was no, that's spot on. Well done, Greg. I'll make a Welsh speaker out of you yet. Yeah, Gwynwyn was formed. It was my first band, with my first songs, if you could call them that. Yeah, there were three, maybe four of us. I wrote the songs, my first songs, pretty basic. We had a couple of acoustic guitars, a mandolin, and Gwynwyn actually means poison.
Poison, yeah.
Or jealousy.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a pretty heavy name for a band with two acoustic guitars and a mandolin and some pretty harmonies. I don't know what we were thinking, but we managed to, we got a little little local record deal, and we recorded 2 EPs. So, and that's, and that gave me a bit of studio experience. I mean, I say studio experience. The first EP we made, there was one microphone hanging from the ceiling, and the mix, it was all down to mono, and the mix was achieved by saying, "Can you, the second guitar, can you move back, a foot, and if you just move over there," and that's how they got the mix.
Is that?
Yeah.
Well, this might be a little early, or you could talk about it now, about the EP was really the way to go.
The Welsh scene, for some reason, I don't know why. I mean, albums were basically out. I think, again, it was economic. But for some reason, it was the EP rather than the single, which had advantages. You'd get 4 songs rather than just the 2 on a single, and they were all picture sleeves. Right. And at that time, singles did not generally, certainly over here, have picture sleeves. Right. So they were in a way a kind of halfway house, but with lots of advantages of an album, because you'd have some information on the back of the sleeve about the band or the singer or whatever. But that was the currency, EPs. Yeah,
the little liner notes on there, and like you said, little advertising, like you said, with the visual really helped, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, Hergest, tell us first where the name comes from.
It's a place. There is a place called Hergest, and there's an album by Mike Oldfield called Hergest Ridge.
Right.
And it's on the border between Wales and England, but it's there they found some of the oldest Welsh manuscripts. And a number of us, when we put the band together, we were students studying Welsh history and culture and all the rest of it. And it seemed like a right-on thing to do, to call it that. And that's it. It's just stuck.
Okay, it just stuck. Well, you talked about the influences. You guys, you like the West Coast. Was everybody pretty much into the same kind of music?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we're still in touch. The 4 main members, we talk to each other almost every week. There was certain, the core. We had a core of mutual loves, and then some of the other guys would go off to, various tangents, and then educate the others into those. One of us was very heavily into Tim Buckley, who I was not familiar with, but I became familiar with. So we were teaching each other as well. It was great.
It's great that you trusted each other's taste like that as
well. And we decided early on, it was this, pretentious CSNY. Right, we're all writing songs, so it's a democracy. And we know what happens with democracy. We know what happened with CSNY. But it then said, right, okay, and that was the nice thing, but an EP, 4 of us writing songs, 1 song each.
Right, there you go. Exactly. That is very democratic.
Yeah, until the albums came along, and then it was, okay, 3, maybe, you've got 4. Okay, fine. But it was along those lines, yeah.
Yeah. Well, February of '72, you recorded a demo tape that you gave to, I should have asked you, is it Sane? I didn't say that right, did I? Sane Records?
Sign.
Sign Records.
Yeah,
A label
they
that's
were
specialized in Welsh language recordings. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
they were the new kids on the block, really. They'd started the company in '69, and they were, unlike our experience of having one microphone hanging from the ceiling, they actually used professional recording studios. Their first records had been made in studios in London. They then found Rockfield Studios
Yes.
in Wales, and that's where we recorded our first two EPs in Rockfield. We were there before Robert Plant and Queen.
Yes, yes. Well, talk a little bit about recording there. What was the experience like, Rockfield?
It was fabulous. We were out of our depth. We were kids, 18, 19, and thought we knew it all. But we were set straight. I think the first EP, I think, was recorded on 8-track, or it may even be 4-track. The second one doubled up, I think. So the first one may be 4-track, and then we went to 8-track on the second one. And of course, what happens is, it got even worse when you get to 16-track. We have 8 tracks. Oh, we can do more. We can we can add stuff. We can double this up. And it just gets too complicated. It's you lose the performance,
right?
Which is why the first EP, I much prefer the first EP, even though it came out in mono, rather than the second one, because we tried to do too much. It's not bad, but that was but it was a great experience to actually. This was a proper recording studio.
Yeah. Well,
and the other one, I have a lovely story about the second EP.
Go ahead.
We had because again we've talked about the influences, so you can imagine. There was one song in particular. We thought, what would be really great on this would be a pedal steel. Now nobody knew anybody who played pedal steel, but one of the guys who was hanging around Rockfield and basically lived there off and on was Dave Edmonds.
I was going to mention.
Now Edmonds played pedal steel, and he was hanging around. We'd see him sort of. You ask him. No, you ask him. No, you go over and ask him. End result: nobody went and asked him. So we lost out on a great opportunity because we were kids. We didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, when we talk about Rockfield, that's who I think of immediately, Dave Edmonds. His early stuff was so different than when he got into the kind of the rockabilly. With Rockpile and that's. Well, what was the public's or the fans' reaction to the EPs?
I think we did quite well. Again, it's a niche market. It's a small, even now, and to give you an idea of what we're talking about, with a band that we're touring at the moment, we'll play theatres, which will be 300, maybe 400 people. We'll play clubs, slightly less. We've done a few festivals. That'll be a couple of thousand. But the festivals even are on the same kind of level as a country fair or a county fair over on your side of the pond. But that's the kind of size of the marketplace. But yeah, the EPs, we were, I hate to say, we were quite popular because there was a local chart and we topped that. But maybe you only needed to sell 20 copies. I don't know.
Right. Well, that was on that note that I was going to ask you about, like being a specialty label, since you were targeting a smaller audience than say a rock or pop, a major label in English. Did they have the same demands for sales that, a bigger label would have? Well,
we never really got into it. I mean, from our point of view, what was important more than, because we never made any money out of it, really. It trickled through a little bit. But our main thing, and I think most artists would say this, would be the opportunity to record again. Okay, if it sold enough to get another deal, we were happy.
Right. Right. Well, you guys appeared on TV. What shows? Or
There,
shows?
there were a number of shows at that time. Now we have a designated Welsh language TV channel, SOC. In those days, there would be the odd Welsh program dotted along on the other networks. And most of them were actually kids shows, but they would put bands on. So yeah, light entertainment and kid shows, because it was still pretty acoustic, pretty middle of the road. You know, the people didn't react very well to spiky guitars, and that right, not yet, but not yet. But as Michael J. Fox says in Back to the Future, but your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah, right. Was it live or taped? Your performances?
A mix. It was. I always remember there was, we had the BBC and we had HTV, which is the commercial channel, and they had sort of rival kids shows. And the BBC one, we always preferred to do the HTV one, because BBC, you'd go in the morning, you'd be there all day. HTV, you'd be done by lunch.
Okay.
Right. We're out of here.
Can we do more of those?
But generally, I mean, again, this was probably true everywhere in that period, or certainly just before that. TV sound for music was not great.
Right. Yeah.
So and a lot of the sound guys were old school. You know, watching the levels. Oh, that's a bit loud. Can you turn that drum down? You know, so, what?
Right. Yeah. It was the early days. Yeah.
It was. I've never really enjoyed doing TV.
Yeah.
We did one recently, and the producer, who I know quite well, said, "Did you enjoy that?" I said, "Listen, I never enjoy it. It was tolerable." I don't want to be ungracious, but it's not. It's unreal. You know, it's because you've got again. We may touch on this later on, but the various aspects of performing. Yeah. We play live a lot. I'm not a great lover of playing live. You know, I get off on it, especially within a band, because I enjoy playing with other guys. I much prefer. I love the recording studio.
Okay. I like to ask that question. Which you prefer? Yeah.
Oh yeah. No two ways about it. Because I get self-conscious in front of an audience, and you've got no audience in the studio. You may have a producer, engineer, whatever, but it's but there's a conversation running all the time, and it's not you putting yourself up there and sort of, okay, judge me.
You're very vulnerable at that point.
I'm that kind of guy. It's one of these things, because I semi-trained, because I left to be a teacher, and realized before getting into it that I was not comfortable in front of a bunch of kids, let alone a paying audience. So I tend to hide behind people, which is why being in a band is great. And the number of solo gigs, although I've made a couple of solo albums, the number of solo gigs I've made, you could count on over the last 50 years on two hands, probably. It's not something I seek. Right.
Geraint, I'm just like you. I'm deathly afraid of giving a speech or standing up in front of people and talking. I'm hiding behind the camera here, and I'm really surprised myself when I started doing these, because I did, the written interviews, for a while. And then somebody asked me, "Do you want to do a video?" And I just how when you just get, your heart drops and you start sweating even thinking about it, And I was like, I don't know if I can do that. But the more I do, it's become more comfortable.
They're all different skills. I found this because I ended up I was doing some TV work a few years ago, just doing spots on a daytime show, discussing. I don't mind at all. This is a bit strange because we're doing it in a language I don't usually do it in. But being interviewed, I've always found being interviewed okay. I don't like interviewing other people. And I don't like, there was this daytime show, they, for a short period, at the top of the program, they were doing a kind of menu. This is what we've got today, blah, blah, blah. And they'd want you to tell them, yes, and I'll be here later on to talk about this. I hated that.
Yeah, you did that.
And I obviously looked totally stiff doing it, because they soon stopped doing that. But the other bit, being this side, I don't mind at all. You ask the questions and I'll be honest with you. I'll give you an answer.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's like I mentioned before we did this, I know there's the nerves and that go into it, but it's always been for me just kind of like talking to you about your life story and hearing those anecdotes and recollections. And I've had several say it was like a casual conversation,
Yeah. It's this, and again, with Zoom and the other, WhatsApp, everything else, it is a conversation,
right?
Because there's nobody else is going to see this, right?
Right. Oh, I'm saying that. Say again. Oh, nobody's going to see this.
Yeah, nobody else can see this. No, just do it. Fine.
Oh, no, yes, a private conversation. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yes, will be.
And that again is the difference. If I knew that people were watching us now, I'd be a lot more self-conscious.
Right.
Now, if anybody wants to watch this after I'm done, I don't care. I'm done.
Right. That's the plus again for me, because I would be, if somebody's watching me right now, I'd be like that too, very tense. But yeah, I have the time to go and edit a little bit and that kind of thing. So, and take out some of the.
And again, I mentioned that I don't do many solo gigs. I made the albums I made solos. Once they're done, people say, "Are you going out to promote this?" No. I'll promote as well as I can through and social media is great for that these days.
Right.
But no, I don't need to go out and do it, because I've written the song, I've recorded the song. This is what it sounds like.
Right.
I hope you like it. But I'm not going to replicate. I'm not going to try to replicate this live.
You and Delwyn, moved to, and I should have asked you about this one. Is it Glencarry? Glencarry. I got it the second time. Okay.
It was. We were still. He's a bit younger than I am. We were both in university in Aberystwyth, and wanted to get out of halls of residence. So we found this flat, and that became a kind of base for the band, and for lots of other bands. They'd be passing through, because it's about midway through Wales, so people would be doing a gig in the north, travelling back, would call in, would stay. It became, our little base for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that I've always said that's when I started to grow up in that period. I left home, and it was the first time I felt, I live here. Not I live with my parents here. I live here.
Right.
So Glencarry as a place and as a name, I've kept. It's part of my web. It's part of my website. The Hergest website. It's part of my my email address.
Yeah.
And
the name of the first album.
And the name of the first album, which again, it would have been the name of the first album anyway. And then again, I was going back to this business of you had 3 songs, you had 3 songs, you had 3 songs. I only had 2, so I thought, hang on, right? No, my ego must be satisfied.
Right.
We're calling the album Glencarry. I'll write a song about the place. So everybody thought that the album was named after the song, but it's the other way around.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if I knew the meaning of the words, it would be a bonus. It's always a bonus. But I can appreciate music, your music that you produce, not knowing Welsh, just like French, Italian, German music that's not in English. I can appreciate. I know some people, they can't unless they know the words. But I enjoy the melodies and the music.
Yeah. I tend to be the same. I got going back to Barry Maguire. It's the sound.
Yes.
I'm a huge Jackson Browne fan. Again, was turned on to Jackson Browne by one of the guys in the band. And, I do eventually study the words. But what got me, first of all, I'll tell you exactly what got me into Jackson Browne. Now, Greg, I was kind of, he's all right, he's okay. He sounds a bit like a few other guys. I can remember it now. I was sitting in, it was Delwyn's parents' house, and they had a stereo system with one speaker was over there, the other speaker was over there. And he was playing me the first Jackson Browne album. I was sitting next to one speaker, and on the song Rock Me on the Water, David Crosby comes in on the chorus, and he's there. Rock me! What? Yes. Okay, right. You have me. So, and it was the sound rather than, any philosophical right. Stuff, and the words are good, but the sound comes first.
Right, it does. For me too. I have a good ear for music, and I've never played any instruments or anything like that, but I know good music when I hear it because I've collected so much of it. But yeah, the music has to grab me. I can't appreciate music if it's just the lyrics,
yeah, and it's always a personal thing. I've given up trying to analyze it because again, I've you get people, if you like this, you like this.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work out that way. You can have something that on the surface it's similar. Yeah, the voices are even similar, but there's something in this that this does not have for me.
Right.
It might do it for you, but it doesn't do it for me. It's
I don't hear it. I know a lot of comparisons, and that's how people find out about music in bands. It's like, well, it sounds like, and some of them are accurate, but a whole lot of them are not. And I don't really hear it. I don't.
No. But sometimes the flip side of that, you find something. There was a fanzine running here in the late 80s called Hot Wax. I was on the mailing list, and they would always do a mail order import stuff from the States.
Yeah.
And if you like this, you like this, And if if you like the Eagles, you like this. And it was the first album by Bruce Hornsby.
Okay.
Now, sort of what?
Yeah.
Nothing like it. But I loved it.
Right.
Not because it was sounded like this, but it was totally different.
Well, you just hit on the Eagles were my very first favorite group growing up. Just loved their early stuff. In particular, but there again, and you mentioned Jackson Browne, his early material. Great.
But it's that era, and you can hear their influence on our stuff. Were we copying them? I don't think we were. We because we started before the Eagles, so they copied us. No, I think we were drawing from the same well.
Right.
Except that they were actually drawing on a local well in California, whereas we were drawing on a far away well in California. Because again, you said there about hearing the music rather than without understanding the words, and I presume you can hear the Americana influence all over our stuff. It's certainly not traditional Celtic folk roots at all.
No.
Because the band I'm in now, only for the last 45 years, Mynediad and Ddim, they started off as that's a strange one. I've been there 45 years out of 50, and I still refer to the band as Them, which is strange because I wasn't there right at the beginning. But if you ask any member of the band to try and define the sound, because they started off as a pretty much traditional folk, and it's developed. It's become more vocal orientated, and we all bring the new guys like me and I brought in my West Coast influences. But we all have different views on what the band actually is. That's possibly why it works. Because we all bring different things to it, so there's no clash.
Right. Different elements. Well, to save time, so this interview isn't epic in length. I'm gonna mention tracks from the albums I've heard.
Okay.
The band's first, Glenn Carey, and the
Mhm.
sophomore release, Lifelong Friends. I translated that. Is that right?
You did.
Lifelong. Okay, there we go. There we go.
Mynediad guitarist, yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I want you to say that. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Google Translate again.
Yeah.
I should have an ad on here for Google Translate.
Yeah. When it works well, it works well. It doesn't always work well.
Right. Very true. Let me just say this. My wife is Indonesian, from Indonesia. And I mean, she speaks fluent English, but I've tried to translate some stuff on there to her, and it doesn't at all. It's like, what are you saying? You know? So anyway, but so those are the two albums that I've actually, you know, listened to.
Right.
And it mentioned some of my favorites, and see and get your take, maybe
Okay.
memories,
That'd be interesting.
inspiration. There we go. Okay. I know a lot of fans, I've read, prefer the second album, Lifelong Friends, to Glenn Carey, but I'm one that prefers the first album.
Interesting.
And I hope you don't mind. You know, again, I'm going to translate the titles, hopefully, into English. And then you can say the Welsh after, if you like. The Pilgrim's Beach, is that right?
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah, that's one of Delwyn's. Traeth y Pererion. The Glenn Carey album was an interesting one, because there were four of us originally in the band. One left, and then we got this new guy come in, Arfon Wyn. He'd already led his own band, and it was basically a Christian band. He was a good guitarist, lots of fun. The trouble was that the other guys in the band, Delwyn and Elgan, who were left, they also had become Christians. Now, I don't go that way. As I said, my father was a minister. I've often said this, that if I'd been brought up in an abattoir, I would be a vegetarian. And that's the way I look at organized religion. But by the by, to each his own. So we got sort of misunderstood a bit. I mean, I had no problem with people writing and singing personal songs which reflected their faith. That's fine, you know, but it wasn't mine. And that's Traeth y Pererion is one of Delwyn's, because as you say, the Pilgrim says it all. I think it's about his search, yes, for spirituality.
Right. Well, you know what? I'm finding more and more talking to you that we have in common. I'm the same way. I'm very opposed to organized religion. If you get a chance to, and this was probably a couple of years ago, I did an interview with David Bixby, Bixby, and he's a singer-songwriter. He had a nice solo album, early 70s. We started out, it was supposed to be about music, about his life, you know, and it all went, well, I don't want to say sideways in a bad way, in a good way, talking about religion, organized religion. And he's of the same, you know, thoughts and sentiments as myself. And the whole interview, it's a long one too. But if you get a chance, David Bixby, that's all we talked about was religion and faith. It wasn't about music.
We're not going to do that today.
No. Yeah, let's just say that right up. No, we're not going to. But if you get a chance on that subject, it's the one interview that had nothing to do with music at all. So, and I just went with it. You know, so I like the piano on that. Nice melody.
The thing with the Glenn Carey album throughout, basically, it's not very well recorded. I don't like the recording. It was a brand new studio, and we were basically making it up as we went along. We were still patching in stuff. Does this go here? And so some of the drum sounds are off and a bit. But yeah, there's some lovely playing on it. It's a great collection of songs, but the production lets it down for me.
Okay, for you. Are you a perfectionist?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
I'm not a musician.
But I do appreciate what's possible, and we didn't get to what was possible.
Okay.
And that was because of the nature of the studio. It's, you know, as I say, the songs hold up, but it was as an album, it's a bit of an anomaly because Alvon came in with his songs as well. He was an electric guitar player more than his previous band had been a rock band. So we took a tangent with Glenn Carey to a certain extent. Some of the songs do blend in with whatever we did in that period, and some of them sort of stick out, but they're quite interesting. There's quite a few, you know, things in there. You know, it's not that I'm proud of the album, but it does have its drawbacks, which again I would agree with other people who say that the next one I prefer the second one, which to me was the best of all of them.
Okay.
Well, you know, but the artist often doesn't know.
Right. Well, see, I don't hear that as far as, like you said, the production.
Okay.
So maybe I'll have to go back and listen to it again and be more critical with a critical ear. But I like that. That may be my second favorite on the album, The Pilgrim's Beach. I'm a sucker for a nice ballad. So A World Without Sympathy, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful. And then Cry from the West, is that right?
That's Gwaeddo'r Gorllewin, that's one of mine.
Okay,
That was that I can talk about. That was inspired by reading Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, D. Brown.
Okay.
Which was particularly popular in that era.
Right.
And that's what that's about, basically.
Okay.
So it's the West is not West Wales.
No, I know.
It's your West.
Right. Well, I had a feeling about that too, that the affinity for the indigenous peoples, you know, that comes through on some of your music. And I didn't want to read too much into that, but that's the background. And that one as a track, that's one of the ones. I like that one. Aaron plays very nice guitar on it. There's some nice piano. It builds. Yes.
And there's a few things. Now you know your music, Greg. It starts off with basically just an acoustic guitar being slapped with a jet, and that is I stole that because we used to steal all kinds of ideas, as everybody should, from Terry Reid.
Yes.
I bought River.
Super Lungs.
Album from the mid-70s, and that's he had this
right,
and that's where that came from.
Right.
Because you just take things from, and sometimes I forget, and I don't listen to this stuff often. But then something come up, or they play it on the radio, or whatever, and you go, oh, I hadn't realised I stole that from somewhere else. Sorry, no, it's an homage. It's an homage. It's not
right. That's a good way. That's a good way to put it too. Yeah, I had reached out to Terry Reid a while back. I haven't heard from him, so but that would be a nice interview. Yeah, definitely a nice interview too. Well, Fog on the Hills.
Right. That was probably if we were taking singles off albums at that point, that would have been the single.
Okay.
But that one is still going strong. Very West Coast influenced.
Yeah.
But the one thing I don't like about it, listen to it again, Greg. The drums are far too far back in the mix.
Okay, I'll go back, make a note to listen to that again.
And again, that one actually, again going back to my love of the studio. It's 3-part, if not 4-part. I'm all the harmonies.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, going in. I got another line. I'll do it. It's,
right. Yeah. Well, that's a great song all around. Like you said, maybe my favorite on the album.
Yeah, it's pretty. Of them, it's commercial. Yeah. And there's another song on there called Sefyllfaoedd Rooms.
Okay.
And we had fun with that. That's very Jackson Browne. And we had great fun with that because back in the day, If you listen to that on headphones, there's a long meandering piano piece in the middle, and it goes through your head.
I think that's the one that, this is a misnomer by Google Translate. It said roommate. Roommate. But you said rooms. Yeah, that one has a gospel feel to me.
Yes. Yeah, very much. Yeah. But the piano, we had great fun. We were twiddling around again, experimenting with this new studio, and the piano moves from right to left. If you listen, who listens on headphones anymore? But yeah.
I will. Okay, now the title track. Now here's where you talk about early about ripping from other people or taking, and I think this is in reverse, because the guitar strumming in that song sounds exactly like. Do you know where I'm going? You know, have you been told?
I don't know if we're going to the same. Are we going to the same place? Let's see.
Okay, exactly like, but a little slower than McGuinn, Clark, and Hillman. Don't you write her off? Don't you write her off?
Yeah. I hear that too.
Yeah.
But that was much later. Yeah.
Exactly. That was my point. That's my point. Yeah.
But that's okay, because we were drawing from the well, so everything comes around. And actually, there's a piece at the end of that where there's a mandolin little run, and that is very much, if not borrowed, it's very similar to one of Chris Hillman's songs on the Byrds reunion album.
Okay. All right. Well, you're borrowing.
I totally agree. It's very much like Don't You Write It Off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought you had heard that, but I should have prefaced it by saying, if anybody did, they borrowed from you, because it was several years later.
But it proves that we were all,
drawing from the same well.
Drawing from the same well.
Yeah. Okay. And then we already talked about this one. Well, moving on to 1976, Lifelong Friends, and go ahead and say the name in Welsh.
Ffrindiau Boreois.
Okay.
Don't even try it.
I'm not going to. Track one. Now, I couldn't get a great translation on this.
Okay.
It came out as Sacrifice Harbor or something like that.
No,
not even.
No, it's Aberteifi is a town.
Okay.
Also known as Cardigan, and it's basically Aberteifi's harbour. And it says, it's basically, the first line is the sun is setting on Aberteifi harbour. Okay. It's that kind of, here we are sitting at the dock of the bay.
Okay. Yeah. Watching time slip away. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the first couple of lines are, and that's where the title of the album comes from. The sun is setting over Aberteifi harbour. You and I are lifelong friends.
Okay.
And it gets from there. And that's where we took that line and used it as.
Okay. Well, the mandolin, I love that instrument. Gives it a Greek kind of sound, I think, on that. I don't know why. I mean, I guess it just, that's what it reminds me of, a lot of the Greek music, using that. I know you guys weren't going for that.
No, but as I say, when we're done, it's up to you. It's
right.
Few things that we didn't. Yeah.
Right. It's up to the individual. Yeah, it should always be up to that.
Yeah, and I've never been precious about that. If you come up and tell me, oh, this song is obviously about this, and you go, if you want it to be, that's not what they wrote it.
Right. Well, Slow in the Rain. Is that about?
Oh yeah, no. It's Gosteg yn y Glaw. It's Pause in the Rain.
Okay, Pause.
Yeah. And that's one of mine. That is very much David Crosby.
Okay, that's tied for my favorite. That's tied for my favorite on the album. Yes. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, that's very. Crosby and Nash made 2 albums in the mid-70s, Wind on the Water. Yeah, Whistling Down the Way hadn't come out, so it must have been the influence of Wind on the Water. He's got a thing, no, we had Traction in the Rain before that, and there's Naked in the Rain. Yeah,
Okay.
he has a song called Naked in the Rain, and there's a bit of influence there, but that's about it. It's just rain.
Yes.
But yeah, I like that one.
Yes, that is a really nice one. Crosby, Nash. Okay. Yeah, I know. No, I didn't have that one. 20 years ago, another one you wrote.
Another one of mine. That one has lasted very, very well, and it's been very good to me. Very good to me. Yeah, it's probably my, apart from the kid song, it's probably my best known within our small nation. Yeah, for some reason.
Right.
But everybody plays well on that.
Yeah, maybe you should update the title to 40, 50 years ago.
50 years ago, yeah, we did, yeah, that's been used. Yes.
And then the last track, What in the World?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's tied for my favorite. That's tied for my favorite. And it has a to me it has a Moody Blues kind of feel.
Mm-hmm.
Really like that. Really.
Yeah, that was written by Derek Brown, one of the guys in the band, and it is actually his favorite of the stuff he's written.
Okay. So
yeah.
You know, I guess I like more tracks off of the first album, but the tracks that I do like off of this one are really stand out. Really strong.
I think we were more sure of what we were doing on this one. Because as I said with Glenn Kerry, apart from the studio being new on Glenn Kerry, we were a different combination of people.
Yeah.
What had happened for this second album, we'd gone back to the original four. Okay. So we sort of, right, what are we trying to do here? You know? And we were that much older, and had a few more, records under our belt. We knew what we were doing. And I think we made 2 albums after this. And, they're not bad albums, but this is the one for me, where we actually reached our potential. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to gloss over the third and fourth albums. Any favorites of yours off of those 2?
Well, the third and fourth, what happened was we became a slightly schizoid band after 76. I was talking earlier about the acoustic nature of most of Welsh pop and the folky influence. Electric bands had started big time. Punk was coming. Yeah. It was less sit down gigs, more dances. Gigs and with a dance floor and the rest of it. So we had always used a rhythm section, which we'd stolen from another band, but they were with the other band, so we couldn't have them live. But we decided, right, we got to the stage, we need a bass, drum, and drums. So we added that. We bought a few electric guitars. Live, I don't think we pulled it off. We went on for about another 2 years. We had some great gigs. People loved it. I wasn't as happy. In the studio, there's some. It was almost as if we were 2 bands. We had the band that went out to play the dances, and then we had the band that went into the studio and wrote and played and sang a similar kind of stuff that we've been doing all along, the singer-songwriter stuff with lots of harmonies. They're both mixed bag. What's interesting, especially on the last one, Amser Kai, which is closing time. Thank you, Tom Waits. Is that if you look at the durations of the songs throughout the run of Hergest, a lot of them, many of them on the first album, second album, even before that, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes. There are very few songs on the last album which are more than 3 minutes or 3.5. Okay. I think we had a lot of undeveloped ideas. Some of them worked, but it was, I think we'd all decided, we've run out of steam. If And it was the 70s. You know, in those days, nowadays, you'd take 2 years off or more. You know, everybody make their own solo albums or whatever, and then you get back together again.
Right.
But in those days, you know, you ran the steam, and that was it.
Yeah. Right.
Although, having said that, we're still very much lifelong friends.
Yeah.
And are still in contact with each other.
You guys had some reformations too, right?
Yeah, a couple. We've, but not for a while. It's every year some offer comes around, and every year one of us, not the same one, very often, will say no. And I think at the moment the one who's probably the first one to say no would be me.
Okay, all right.
It's again, you know, pretentious. Yes, this is pretentious. I loved a quote by Roger McGuinn because he's in the same. You know, he says, "I get asked all the time about reforming the Byrds," and his line resonates for me. I treasure my time with the Byrds. I'm very proud of what I did with the Byrds, but I don't want to be in the Byrds.
Okay, right. I get that.
And there's an element of that. It's a whole different ballgame with the band I'm with now, in that it's been a continuum. But to try and pick up 10, 20 years after you picked up, it's not the same. And you'll always compete with that idea of where you were.
Right.
From your own perspective and from the audience as well, I expect. They want to recreate.
Yeah.
And this is a creative medium.
Right. It's hard to go back and read.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But well, no, we did. It was a sad occasion because the bass player we used to use back in the day, he passed away. We did a kind of wake for him, and that was the last time we sang together. And we did it without rehearsal. We hadn't sung together for about 10 years, and it was muscle memory.
Right.
And,
Yeah. Well, I know with all the music that with both bands that you've been prominently part of, I know you want to stay true to your roots with Welsh only lyrics, but has there ever been any thought about recording in English? You knew where I was going.
yeah, that's fine. Well, again, to put things in context, in the 70s, the growth in our era's Welsh pop, rock, whatever, was tied in with civil rights campaigns on behalf of the Welsh language, because the Welsh language didn't have any kind of status official at all. Things have improved immeasurably in the time since. So it was all tied up in it. So basically, if you went off and started singing this, you'd be seen as a kind of turncoat in a way, which is naive, but also no, it didn't come up. It was possibly we were too happy in our own little small pool. I mean, I've only ever written one song in English, and that was for a friend of mine who doesn't speak Welsh, but is married to one of the guys in my present band. And she'd always said, "Geraint, you must write me a song. You must write me a song." And she was 60.
Okay.
So I said, and she didn't expect it. And it did what it did, and it hasn't gone any further. There it is, Julie. There's your song.
Well, I know the material would appeal to a wider audience. And if it wasn't just for me, liking to experience and try different music, I love to hear music from all over. I know a lot of people are averse to that if they don't know the lyrics. We talked about that.
Yeah.
But I think I know for sure, because if the music, like you said, was more Celtic folk like that, then I can see, it's not going to really appeal anyway to a larger audience. But because it's got that West Coast sound, I know.
Yeah, quite possibly. We've left it a bit late. But what has changed and improved really? There's a healthier attitude. The split between Welsh speakers and non-Welsh speakers has now got, it's a lot tighter. And there are bands now who do play internationally and sing in Welsh.
Yeah.
And they're doing okay. They're never going to be up there with the very, very top because of the nature of the appeal. But it can travel.
Yes, it does travel. And let me just say this, I'm not knocking that at all. I mean, I admire very much what you do and what you have done all your career, staying true to your roots. It's very necessary. And I'm glad you kept that alive,
Yeah.
I was just mentioning that I think that a lot more people would, enjoy this music and music with your, what you're doing now too. They would enjoy that.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving the news. I translated that one as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
How long did you play in the news?
I had a lot of fun. Newyddion. And another Americana story.
Okay.
Hergest had come to an end, and I'd been messing around with a few other people and wasn't really happy. I thought, I'm going to put my own band together, which was... and basically teamed up with a bunch of students 10 years younger than I was, but great players. And we had a ball. But we only lasted a year. We made one single. The main reason, well, two reasons. I was living in Aberystwyth. The other three, the students, were in Aberystwyth studying. And at the same time, I moved jobs to, 80 miles away down to Swansea. And they were studying for their exams and the rest of it. And only one of them has carried on with the music. So we never split up. It just kind of,
just fizzled.
Great. But we had a lot of fun. And the name, again, stolen. I used to come up, I'd say, every time we do a set, and we did quite a few gigs in that year, my opening gambit, before we hit the first chord, it would be, and I'm translating, good evening. Was it? Yeah, good evening. Here's the news. Okay?
Okay.
Now that was stolen. I'd seen Huey Lewis and the News.
Oh, okay.
in California, as it happened, supporting, I don't think they even had an album out, supporting the Doobie Brothers, the Michael McDonald version.
Oh, Doobie Brothers. Doobie Brothers.
And Huey's spiel was at the end of their set.
Ah, okay.
Good night. You just heard the news. So I just flipped that.
Right.
Again, I'll steal from anywhere.
Going on to Free Admission, because I'm not going to try to say the name again. That was kind of a joke, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's come back to bite us so many times. Because there was a band just before then, the same stupid idea, called Ac Eraill, which means and others.
Okay.
And they adopted that name because they were the bottom of the bill and they didn't have a name yet.
Okay.
So, and then people got totally confused that the and others were actually called and others. And I think that's the kind of mentality that went on, because Mynediad and Ddim started, again, there's a bunch of students not taking it particularly seriously. They didn't think it would last 2, maybe 3 years, let alone 50. So it has caused a little confusion from time to time.
Yeah, especially for concert goers or people going
exactly. There. So and you have to play it up. You tell them, yeah. Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, you can free admission, but you have to pay to get out.
Pay to get out. I like that. We won't let you leave. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. Well, the band had been together since what, 74?
74, 50th anniversary this year. Yeah.
Yes, right. And the band definitely had some fans in Brittany. Talk about that 1979, the one-day trip that was all paid for.
Before I joined, they'd been out for 2 summers, I believe, for a couple of weeks, and played a few gigs over there. Again, because at that time they were much more folky than we actually are now. So went down very well in Britain. And as a consequence of that, there was an invitation to go over to play a festival, major festival. And the attitude was, well, no, we can't come over. We're still, we've got work. The gig was on a Saturday. We haven't got the time. We can't afford the time to come over, or the expense. But they really wanted the band, so they said, no, hire a plane. We'll pay for it.
Yeah.
So, wow. And I'd only just joined the band. This was one of my first gigs. And we flew. It's not a long flight. It's only about an hour and a half, maybe. We flew over. We got on the plane at midday on Saturday, and we were back home, or back on Welsh soil, at 12 on Sunday, having been to Brittany, played the gig, stayed up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning with all these mad Bretons. But yeah, that's probably the most prestigious gig we've ever done. Yeah.
Did you guys sleep all day after that?
Well, my wife will tell you that I was in a state when I got back. We'll leave it at that.
Okay, we won't go there. Well, this is interesting. Around the same time, there were a couple of cassettes made for children, and particularly Welsh Nursery Schools group. How did you guys get involved in that?
I've got no idea. It's again, I think they wanted to have a cassette at that time for nursery kids with old Welsh nursery rhymes. And there's a question of finding, okay, who could we get to record, who would be in that milieu, if you know what I mean. And for some reason they chose Mynediad and Ddim. So we made the first one, which was basically old nursery rhymes, and there was a second one then that went very well, of Christmas songs.
Holiday fun. And
they're still around. They've been reproduced on CD. They're still available, and generations of kids have, I play them to my grandkids, because they're very simple, short, simple, which is probably why they chose us.
Okay, I won't comment. No, but that's interesting. Have you heard years and decades later from the young ones that were brought up on? Usually in a kind of disparaging ways of, oh God, did you have to record that stuff? My grandkids can't get enough of it. They insist I play it in the car all the time. Because you know what small kids are like. Once they like something, oh, play it again, Daddy, play it again. You should say, well, you should be thanking me, right?
Well, yeah.
Right. Well, back to free admission again. An old buddy from Hergest, Ray Gravell.
Right.
He joined.
He joined. Yeah, he's only been there for about 40 years, so he's definitely a new kid on the block.
Yeah, he's a newbie.
Yeah, because the band didn't have a bass player before that. It was totally. It's always been totally acoustic. We never used a drummer. We have a keyboard player now, who's very useful. He fills in a lot when the guitars start flagging. But yeah, we're a 7-piece acoustic band, and everybody sings, which is great. Because going back to where we started, when I was talking about, I don't like being told what to sing, which lines to sing. What's great in the 7-piece band, if you're singing 3 or 4-part harmony, there's always somewhere you can go. You can veer off because somebody else will cover that note. So every gig can be different, because some of the guys like to sing the same thing every time. If I know he's going to sing there, so, I'll mix a bit. I'll go on his note, and it keeps me fresh.
Right. I like that. I like that approach.
And Fries, the bass player, has a wonderful bass voice, because again, having been a fan of bass players who sing very high, Randy Meisner, Timothy B. Schmidt, etc. It's great to have a bass player who actually is very deep. Yeah.
Yeah, that works. Well, any talk about the live shows, any memorable ones that you'd like to mention?
Oof. Yeah, they're all different. I'll share this one with you. I hope this won't reach the ears of the audience concerned. And it's always a mixed bag. We did a double header just about a couple of weeks back in North Wales. First night was in the theatre. Wonderful professional staff couldn't do enough to help us. The sound was great. The audience was great. Fine. Following night, we end up in a seaside location, outside a hotel. Nice hotel, lovely people. But some people had turned up having been enjoying themselves all day. And it was a small place. And they insisted, and these were women of a certain age who should know better, but had come to have a good time. So they basically talked all the way through the slow numbers, except the ones they got up to dance to, even the slow numbers. And the fast numbers, there was no stopping them. And it was this kind of dancing. I did not enjoy that.
Yeah.
And they weren't even local people. They were basically, they were there, they were Welsh, but they were tourists. And that did have a bit of respect for the music. You know, right. I know you've come to enjoy yourselves, but then some people have also come to enjoy themselves to actually listen.
Right. Don't spoil it for other people.
Yeah. Otherwise, there's so many of them. You know, and they're all different. A lot of it depends on, because we don't carry our own sound equipment anymore. Mm-hmm. We hire in PAs, and that can vary a lot. There are some people we use regularly, and you know, there's one in particular. He's great because he's got the settings on his computer every time. All he has to do is adjust for the room. Others, you know, oh yeah. Others will book you and say, yeah, we got a PA. Yeah, it'd be fine.
Right.
And it isn't.
It's not.
But yeah, no. Generally, we have a lot of fun.
Right.
And we have a good time.
Yeah. Well, one of them, 1993, a live performance was released on video. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was. I please don't go looking for it, because I think it was that period of. I think that was from a TV show, and I got a feeling. I haven't seen it since then. I got a feeling we were in that period of being dressed in very, very loud shirts.
Okay. All right.
Don't do that anymore. Yeah.
Turn it down. Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, there's certain things about the 80s and early 90s. Shirts are one. Drum sounds are another. You know, what were we thinking? Yeah.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. Some of that technology that people hailed as being the next best thing was not.
No. Which is why, in a way, I'm quite happy that we've carried on being an acoustic band. Yeah. Because there's not much, you can't really foul that up.
Right. And it's going back to your roots. I think it's staying true to that. You know, I think it is. Well, you mentioned 80s and 90s. What do you contribute to the rise of interest in Welsh language folk festivals during those years? Yourself, your band, right? That's
right. That's it. Yeah. No, I think the rise, in a way, was inevitable, because, as I said, things didn't really start until the mid 60s to early 70s. So you would start off from a very small base. So that base is going to get, you know. And some festivals have come, some have gone, some have resurrected. You know, there's a pretty healthy scene at the moment. There are more bands than ever before. You know, it's still a semi-pro, if not amateur, pastime, because, you know, there are very few bands that can go totally professional. Because of the nature of the market again, which is fine. You know, because I was never a full-time musician. So you know, everybody has their own jobs to do. So, but yeah, things have grown. and it's in a pretty healthy place at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. Well, do you recall sharing the stage with Davie Spillane and the Dubliners?
Oh yeah. We've done that. Yes. There's one in particular. Well, our lead singer likes to tell this story every time. There's a song written by Brendan Behan, the Irish poet, called "The Old Triangle." It's about prison life for Republican Irish guys, and we've been singing it for years in translation.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sharing that we were playing support to the Dubliners in one of these festivals. And this is the way Emma tells the story: is that we went on, did this song and we do it as a cappella, everybody singing, and it works. And as we came off the stage, one of the Dubliners said, "Jesus, that's one song we won't be playing tonight." Which I take to be a compliment.
Yeah. I would. Mark that one off of our playlist.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I find listening to a lot of the roots music from all over, how similar it is. I might hear Icelandic folk song, traditional, and then I say, well, that sounds like an Irish, or a Norse, a Nordic, from Norway. Yeah.
I mean, again, that's how I found Bulgarian music.
Right. I love that.
Through Mr. Crosby.
Right.
Because he was very much into that. And if you listen to his the solo album, if I could only remember my name, there's at least one song there which it's almost dissonant, but it's beautiful. And he'd been going on about these guys, and I said, okay, I'll check it out. Because very often it sounds like this, you like this, and you end up with a pile of stuff and go, but this was great. It opens up this stuff.
Yeah, the Bulgarian women's choir. Without any instruments, it's just
and it's also nice as a musician. I hate to use that term, but it's always good to be able to appreciate and enjoy music that you can't play.
Right. Yeah.
It's great to find stuff. Oh, I could. I'm always turning things on its head now. I can do that. Yeah, I could do these 3 chords and do this kind of country shuffle. Yeah, great. And then you hear this stuff. Wow. And then you have to go, I'm just going to listen to this and be, because at the end of the day, I'm a fan of music and and although I have my favorites and my go-tos, there's always something new out there. Sometimes it's stuff that's very similar to the old stuff. I mean, there's a lovely line. I went to see James Taylor. I've seen him several times. There was one concert with James Taylor where he had a new album out, and he said, "Well, I'm going to do a new song now, but don't worry, it sounds very much like the old songs." Because generally audiences want to hear what they've heard before.
Right. They don't want to be challenged too much.
No. And I'm just guilty as the next guy. I hear some. Oh, this is great. Because I remember my son was no longer, for obvious reasons, a huge fan of Ryan Adams. Ryan rather than Brian. And he played. He introduced me to Ryan Adams. I said, "Oh, okay. Have you heard Graham Parsons?" It's.
Oh yes, one of my favorites. Yeah. Right.
You go through it, and a lot of the bands I'm listening to. There's a guy called, I don't know if you've come across, Jeff Larson.
Yes, I have. Yes.
He's friendly with people like the Beach Boys and America, and he's made several solo albums. Again, it's very comfortable. It's not pushing the parameters at all. It's been done, but he does it very well. And there's another band called Venice, from Venice, California, and they're very big in Venice, California, and Holland,
Uh-huh.
but mean nothing anywhere else. And
Yeah.
they're great.
Hey,
But again, it's
that's
that West Coast sound.
yeah.
The Jayhawks I love.
Uh-huh.
But again, you can't say there's anything new there.
Yeah, right. Well, you just hit on when you said Holland. So many of these interviews I did, especially with UK musicians, they said they made it big in Holland, but they
Yeah,
weren't known at all back home. Back home, people didn't. They could walk on the
that's
street
true.
and they knew who they
That's
were.
true.
Yeah, yeah,
But even big names. I mean,
yeah.
a bit different to the usual stuff. I was a big Joe Cocker fan.
Okay,
Now,
good.
now, Joe basically for the last years of his life was making a living touring Germany.
Mhm.
Would very rarely come over this side. Might play a showcase in London. That was it. But he'd be
Uh-huh.
in Germany all the time.
Yeah,
And we have Bonnie Tyler from Wales. She's
right,
very big in Germany.
right.
But they like, I think they like the bombastic stuff. I mean, I don't want to, turn them into a cliche or stereotype them, but they like big noises.
Right. Yeah, yeah. It has something to be said about where your music appeals and to what peoples and countries. And
Yeah,
yeah, that's wow, that's interesting. That's a whole new other subject.
yeah.
But well, did you want to mention briefly, talk a little bit about your solo albums?
Uh, well, I've made them. It, basically, it all started off. About the same time as I Hergest had come to an end, I joined Mynediad and Ddim as basically a backup guitarist and harmony singer. So I wasn't writing any songs at that point. And then had a career in radio and wasn't writing much, if at all. And then towards the end of that period, when I was leaving and basically early retirement, a friend of mine who was a semi-professional again, with a huge track record, had his own home studio, and I'd been helping him out with his stuff. And he said, "You must have written a few things in your back pocket. Why do we do one of yours?" And I had about one, I think, which I'd been meaning to give to somebody else. And so he recorded that in his home studio. And then he said, "Well, that went well. Go home and write another one." And that started
Gotcha.
a thing again. When I got into this, I need a bit of push. With Hergest, it was competition from the other guys, because if they'd written 3 songs, I had to write 3, etc., etc. So I went, and that's how the first album came about. Recorded it with my another Geraint Griffiths, and he and I put that together. And then years went by. Mynediad and Ddim decided to record again after a period of 20 years. And that's when I wrote a few songs for that, because nobody else in the band writes.
Yeah.
So wrote a few there and enjoyed that, the studio experience, especially putting that, because I half produced it with another guy. And I enjoyed that process so much. I thought, well, yeah, I'm still writing a few things. So, they're 2 very different, I think. The first one I did had program drums, but drum samples stolen from various Harry Stinsons and people like this. I was quite a sort of soft rock, whatever.
Yeah.
The second one, I decided to follow the Mynediad and Ddim template, so no drums, and basically, apart from some keyboards and bass, did it all myself. So did all the harmonies, all the acoustic guitars and mandolin and harmonica, that kind of stuff. So you could say they're glorified demos, but they work okay in that setting. And that was it. I put it out. Some people have bought them. It's got airplay, and I'm happy with that. But that's been 10 years now. Yeah. So I have no plans for any more.
Okay, yeah, that is 2014, yeah. Well, when you play live with Free Admission, are you ever asked to play any of your solo material?
Yeah, we're doing bit of that. You mentioned before the song "Igen London" or the 20 years ago. Yeah, I've been that's been drafted in. I've been kind of resistant to it because I respect bands and I like the structure of bands. And what we have two lead singers and the rest of us. And to bring me in to sing lead on something that doesn't, especially from another band,
Right.
another life, doesn't quite. On the other hand, it is a little ego boost that people say, "Oh, you remember that? Yeah, that's great." But again, it's putting myself out there. So I much rather no.
Okay. I'll pull away from that a little.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, kind of coming to a close here. Anything that you'd like to mention or plug or bring up?
No, we've had a good chat.
Yeah. Hey, and you survived. You actually survived.
It doesn't hurt. I mean, it is a bit strange. I am conscious of the fact that it is a niche minority language which is never going to appeal across the board. So when some guy from Texas gets in touch and says he wants to do an interview, you think, what the hell is he thinking? But on the other hand, we all like talking about ourselves in an informal setting like this. So I've got no problem with that.
Oh, I can't help but laugh. What the hell? That's good. That's a great reaction.
Yeah.
Where the hell is this guy coming?
Well, and of course, it came through, whatever messenger or whatever. And you must be the same. I get every day almost somebody wants to be my friend. Like, who the hell are these people? And some of them, I got no idea who they are.
I know.
And the Facebook thing, the most, shameless, the most shameless of them, people you've never heard of, you don't know them, and they don't even have the courtesy to put a picture up.
Right.
And you think, the name of the thing is Facebook.
Right.
If I saw your face, I might recognize you from somewhere. But so there's a lot of that happening. And then when I get this thing from Greg Shanks from Texas, and what the is he real, or is this one of my friends winding me up?
Right. Is this a virus? Well, that's what it's interesting to hear that, because I've asked different ones, what was your reaction, or what could I say? What could I do to make it more, make myself more approachable, or make it more genuine sounding, or what could I do basically to get more interviews, that kind of thing. And I know out of the blue, getting some message from somebody, I would be the same way. It's like, what does this guy want? What's his ulterior motive? What, there's that.
As I told you in the messages back and forth, it's, you have the tenacity.
Right.
So to just keep on wearing people down, you'll be fine.
I'm gonna wear them down. Well, yeah, I have a real I got passion. I'll say it.
Yeah.
I think it's my calling. I really found my calling late in life, but I enjoy this. I really enjoy it. So I'm not going to give up.
No, the tenacity, and also it became clear to me as we went along that you had actually done some homework.
Yeah, right.
Because I have done interviews with people, and they have absolutely no idea. It didn't happen to me. It happened to a musician friend of mine who's quite well known, and this was in the Welsh sphere. So, and the opening question was, "Tell us which albums you've recorded."
Oh, is that? Oh,
and
wow.
you start from there, and you think, this is not going to go well.
Yeah. No, it's not. Well, I do like to do the research, and and thank you again, Google Translate.
Yes.
That helped out quite a bit. I would have been really struggling through this one, but yeah, and I appreciate you letting me, or taking the time to do this and meeting. But yeah, it's one of those things that I would like to come across. You can't just say to somebody, "Hey, trust me." You can't do that, because that even sounds like you're more of a conniver.
Yeah.
Like you're up to something.
But again, this has gone well for me. It's great because very often when you do something like this, especially in depth, you realize something that you hadn't realized before. So as it comes out, I think, oh yeah,
there you go. There you go.
A friend of mine, we're great friends, but he will argue everything. He loves an argument. And his reasoning is, I like to argue because at the end of the argument, right, with different, I then know what I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can see. I can see.
So, but there are a few things today now. Sort of think, because as I said, I've what you see is what you get. If you ask me a question, I'll give you an answer best I can. But sometimes the answer will come, and I haven't even really thought it through. I've always done, but I've done a lot of interviews in Welsh primarily, of course, and I always ask people, whatever you do, don't tell me what you're going to ask me.
Right. Yeah.
Otherwise, I will start preparing, and it won't be as good.
That's right. Good point. I've had several have said, "Well, can you give me, the questions beforehand?" I don't like to do that myself either.
Well, it stops becoming a conversation, doesn't it?
Right. And that's the thing about the reason I stopped. Well, I still do for people that insist on doing a written interview. They don't like being in front of the camera or for whatever reason. I'll do it, but that's the reason that I've kind of really focused on I enjoy this better because of that. The preparation, the give your response is like thought out too much,
Good.
Yeah.
Well, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Oh, I'm definitely happy. I'm happy every one of these that I do, and there are some that are better than others. And this is going to be one of those. I can tell you. And it's like you said, it's learning. It's once you stop learning, you might as well be dead. Basically, we're learning all our life, and you like you said, you gleaned a little bit of something. I always glean, different things from doing these. So it's always appreciated, and it's making that connection. It is. It very much is. Well, okay, Geraint.
Okay.
Well, I will thank you again, and I will give you a copy of this once I get it edited a little. It usually takes about a week or so.
Yeah, fine, great.
And then you can post it wherever you like, and let everybody know. Right? Not there, no. Any place but there. No, but no. Seriously, I do appreciate you coming through, and it was a whole lot. Not quite as painful as going to the dentist, but almost right. Yeah.
Yeah. You can get back to your coffee, and I'll get back to.
Okay.
It's almost Sunday evening wine time.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be right over then.
Take care, Greg. Thank you very much.
All right, Geraint. All the best to you. All right.
Bye now.